Yo, what's up, members of the Couch Media Corps? How you guys doing out there? Today we're gonna get into some Shazam, Fury of the Gods, but before that, a couple of reminders. This video will have spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, I suggest you go watch it and then come back. Also, give the movie a chance, man. Don't let what I say influence your opinion on it. There's a lot of people that worked hard on this movie. Their intention going into a production is not to make a bad movie, so the least we could do is watch the movie and give it a chance. Or not. If you don't want to, then don't do it. That's just my opinion. That's just how I feel. I'm gonna give every movie a shot, no matter if it's bad or not. I love movies, so I don't mind spending the money. Also, if you want to get some updates on up-and-coming movies, TV shows, and pretty much all things nerd, head on over to my other social media accounts where I post more frequently. Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I'm more frequent on Instagram and Twitter, so if you want to go follow those, feel free to. But yeah, let's get into this review. Alright, so Shazam, Fury of the Gods is out, and I've seen it, and it's, yeah. That's basically my entire feelings on it. It's just, alright. But I'm gonna go into it a little more. I was very disappointed with the movie, man. Considering that I liked the first one a lot. The first one was like an 8, very entertaining, very charming, had some heart to it. Visually it was okay. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it wasn't the best thing ever visually. But the characters were great. Character of Shazam was awesome. He wasn't too much. He was just exactly how he should have been, just funny, kiddish. Asher Angel as Billy was great in the first one. The Shazam family was great too. They all had their little things to do in the movie, and they're all cute and funny and all that stuff like that. So I definitely appreciated it in the first movie. This movie, I don't know, man. I feel like it lost all its charm and heart and like just overall feel from the first one. It just felt off to me. This review is going to be split in 3 categories. So it's going to be story, characters, visuals / music. I'm going to mix those 2 in 1 category. So yeah, let's jump into the first category, and that category is story. Bestowed with the powers of the gods, Billy Batson and his fellow foster kids are still learning how to juggle teenage life with their adult superhero alter egos. When a vengeful trio of ancient gods arrive on Earth in search of the magic stolen from them long ago, Shazam and his allies get thrust into a battle for their superpowers, their lives, and the fate of the world. Honestly, the story was pretty generic, man. It was like, you know, the usual superhero stuff. Villains come to Earth and cause some trouble, and it's up to our heroes to stop them. You know, the usual world-ending stuff is always like a world-ending issue. And honestly, it just fell flat for me. I feel like there were so many missed opportunities when it came to the Greek mythology of it all. Like, they were introducing this amazing like Greek mythology in this, and I was really excited to see more on that front, like what the gods were doing and how the gods incorporated into this world. But it was pretty standard stuff, man. Like, they didn't really elaborate on anything. They were just there. Like, the opening shot of the movie is just them walking into a museum. Like, no backstory, no nothing. Like, start right off the bat of Hespera and Calypso just going into a museum trying to get the staff that was broken in half in the first movie by Shazam. And it was just quick. Like, there was no, it would have been cool to see, like, because their whole motive of the movie, the whole villain's motive was to get back the powers that were stolen from them. You know, Billy has the powers of the gods, split into 6 ways. So they wanted to get those powers back, and it would have been cool to see like a little flashback or something of like the gods and who they were, and a little bit of, you know, backstory, and kind of give these characters a little bit of story instead of just being thrust into their world and immediately like trying to care about them. There was nothing else, honestly. It was just like, the story was super generic. It didn't really capture me at all. So that's about it for the story. Like I'm saying, like, super generic. It follows like Shazam in the beginning trying to, you know, cope with the fact that he has these powers and there's other cooler heroes, and also like his family is kind of growing up and they, you know, want their own time and stuff like that, and Billy's trying to hold on to them, which could have been cool if Asher Angel was more involved as Billy Batson, because it was mostly Zachary Levi as Shazam pretty much the whole movie. But I'll get into that more in the character section of it. But yeah, I felt like the story didn't really do much for me. So yeah, let's jump into the next category, and that's gonna be the characters. With the characters, to be honest, there wasn't much to like in this category because, I don't know, I felt like the script for this movie was horrible. And mostly all the jokes and just like the lines, and the way they delivered just fell flat, man, making this movie feel awkward kind of like throughout the whole thing. And I think everybody's performance suffered from that. The character I liked the most though was the wizard, played by Jaimon Hansu. Hopefully I pronounced your name right, but you're the only bright part of this movie, honestly, for me. He was actually one of the few characters that was freaking hilarious and kind of well balanced in the sense he had like he had some funny ass lines. He had some good heart. He also drove the story a little bit in terms of his character explaining certain things. So I definitely enjoyed his performance. Even with that being said, he did suffer because of some of the script and some of the situations they did put him in that made him just look goofy as hell. I don't know, man. Like, I know it's a movie and you're supposed to have fun, but man, I can't really turn off my brain that much to accept goofiness like that, because there's this one scene where Shazam is having a dream and he's like on a date with Wonder Woman. You know, he's just talking, and then you don't see Wonder Woman's face or anything, you just see the back of her head. And then eventually the wizard pops up in the dream and it's just like the wizard's face on Wonder Woman's body, and that shit was just fucking goofy as hell, man. Like I just couldn't like get past it. It was just too goofy for me, man. Like it wasn't even that funny either. Like Shazam wasn't funny at all to me. Like I'll get to more later when I get to the Shazam part of it, but he wasn't funny at all in that scene. So like everything that the wizard was doing was falling flat to me, honestly. But overall, Jaimon, he had a great performance as the wizard. I did enjoy him a lot. He was definitely my favorite character of the movie. Grace Caroline Curry as Mary Marvel was probably my second favorite character. She didn't have much in this movie, and I think that was a big fault of the movie, where most of the Shazam family had nothing to do in this movie. But the little time that Grace had was great. She was like kind of that grown-up voice of reason within the movie and kind of like the overseer and the protector of the family. She also had some funny scenes that kind of bounced well off the other characters. Her suit looked freaking cool. It was kind of like the most unique one out of all the Shazam family, and the one that stood out the most to me, honestly. So she looked amazing. But yeah, that's pretty much it because she didn't get much to do. The rest of the Shazam family, man, like what a waste, man. Like I felt like they didn't give them anything to do in this movie. It was just nothing. There's a lot of them just sitting around listening to Shazam talk and explain like plans and like just bulldoze a scene and them just like sitting back and listening. Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddie Freedman was probably the most prominent Shazam family member. He had even more scenes than Billy Batson, which is crazy because Billy Batson / Shazam is the main character in the freaking comic books. It was crazy, man, that he got way more scenes. He was like probably in half the movie. He probably had the same screen time as Zachary Levi. Freddy was okay. He had some funny parts. He had some very good emotional parts as well, but also he had some scenes where it was just like, ugh, like it was just too much. Like he was too frantic and like kind of annoying a little bit. I don't know if that's mean to say, but like his performance was annoying a little bit. Like it was just too much. Like, oh God, like can you just relax for a second? He was like frantic as shit. So it was a little annoying sometimes, but he was okay. I didn't really mind him that much. And then the rest of the kids, Ian Chan, Jovan Armand, and Faith Herman, like barely had any screen time, yo. It was ridiculous. Especially Ian and Jovan. Yo, Jovan had legit like 1 or 2 lines, no lie. And Ian had like 1, I think. Or like 2. And that's it. And then Faith had a little more lines, but she barely had anything. Like, it was insane, man, how like the whole point of this movie was about like family, and they were barely in it. And there was nothing for them to like do. There was no like bonding, or there was no sweet moments, kind of like how the first one was. And there was just nothing for them to do in this movie. And also like when they were in their Shazam forms, their superhero forms, they didn't do anything either. I mean, you can say like in the first part of the movie where they saving that bridge from falling and doing all that stuff, that's pretty much the most action they got in the movie, which was like I think the first 10 minutes of the movie, which was fine, but it's also like kind of getting old, these intros where the superheroes are saving something and it's just like chaos and destruction and then just saving people, and it's like it's just like cheesy now. and it kind of looked bad too. Like the background was fucking looked cheap as shit sometimes, so it was just distracting. It was a weak scene. So Adam Brody, who played the superpowered version of Freddy, was probably the most prominent superhero Shazam family member, but in that too, he didn't really do much either. I think he had like 2 to 5 minutes of screen time, nothing crazy. And then the same goes for everybody else. I think Megan Good had about the same screen time. Ross Butler played the grown-up version of Ian. Didn't do much either. He had a couple things where I wish they would have explored a little more, because he seemed like he was the one that was interested in the Shazam lore in the movie, and he wanted to find out where things came from and stuff like that, which would have been cool if they dove into that a little more. DJ Quatrona, I think that's how you say his name. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, but he was a grown-up version of Jovan. He didn't have anything to do either. He had like 2 lines. It's insane, man, how like the Shazam family was treated in this movie, man. Like, there's just too much Zachary Levi in this movie, man. And that's crazy to say because he's the star of the movie. But I felt like the first movie had a very good balance of all, like the characters, where it had, you know, Asher Angel as Billy a lot in the movie. Then you had little sprinkles of Zachary Levi, Shazam in there. Then you had the Shazam kids all a part of the movie as well. It's just too much Zachary Levi, in my opinion, honestly. And it's kind of a shame because Asher Angel was put on the sideline, man. They didn't give him any time to shine. In the little moments that he was on screen, he was great. He actually had a really nice moment with his foster mom, Rosa, played by Marta Milans, which was very nice and touching, man. And it like lasted like a minute, and then that's it. You know, he's gone, and Shazam is back, and Zachary Levi's back, and that's it. I wish they would have given him a little more time in this movie to do stuff, man, because I feel like he would have turned in a great performance, and, you know, kind of provide a little more heart to the movie. And then Zachary Levi probably was my least favorite character of the movie, and it's nuts to say because it's called Shazam. The movie's called Shazam, and it's centered around this character. But man, I don't know what it was about this movie, but Zachary Levi was terrible. I mean, he felt flat in this movie, man. Like everything he said felt flat, man. None of that shit was funny to me. He was just kind of annoying and like a little bit like bulldozing every scene, taking it out of the room, and like kind of stepping on everybody else's performance, which kind of sounds mean, but that's how I felt a little bit. Like he also acted too different from what Asher Angel was doing as Billy. Asher Angel was actually more mature as his normal form as Billy than Zachary Levi as Shazam. Like Shazam is just 2 drastic personalities. Like you don't even believe it's the same person. Zachary Levi's performance is almost even more childlike than Asher, and it was kind of like hard to believe, like, oh, this is the same person. And he was just goofy as fuck, man. Like all the time, like, just goofy, and like in the first movie he was goofy, but the jokes were better written and it was funnier. But in this movie it was just like so childish and not funny at all. It was just whack, man. And it's kind of sad, man. I don't know how I feel about Shazam, man. I'm not excited for the future of the character, which kind of sucks, man, because I really do love Shazam, but I don't know if I want Zachary Levi to keep playing the character, man. Or if he does, like, please get him some better writers, man, because the way he acted in this movie was just like, it was flat, man. It just felt flat. Nothing was funny to me, in my opinion. And he just didn't provide anything, honestly. And as for the villains, pretty weak, man. That was probably the weakest part of the movie, honestly. There was like nothing compelling about them. No story to really make you feel the impact of what having the power of the gods stolen from them really meant. It was just words, like they said it. There was no visuals to accompany that, like, you know, there was just Helen Mirren talking about the powers of the gods were stolen from us and we want it back. But I don't care. I haven't seen anything before that to make me feel like, oh snap, that's crazy. Like, oh, the impact that this power stolen had, you know, on them and the history and all that stuff. Like, that was not included at all. It was just like, here you guys go, this is what happened. We're not gonna show you, so you just gotta, you know, randomly care about these villains and feel for them. I was like, nah, there was nothing to it. Helen Mirren as Hespera was fine. It was Nothing spectacular. She did great with what she was given. Same for Rachel Zegler as Anthea. She was fine too. She did great with what she was given. But one thing that was kind of weird about her was her powers. Like, although they were cool, it was weird because like there was no explanation of like what they were doing. Obviously you can kind of figure it out by like just seeing it. It was like manipulating the reality around them, but is that actually happening, or is that something that's in somebody's head, you know? Because she's doing all this crazy stuff, man. She's basically rearranging buildings and locations and all that. And is that happening? You know what I mean? Because if it is, all those people are like moving around all crazy and shit like that. Their whole building is like a mile away now, relocated in a different spot, and like there's really no mention of, or like none of that is even talked about. It just happens, and that's it. Like, so that was just a thing that I couldn't get past a little bit sometimes, where like when she did use her powers, she basically changed reality and nobody said anything about it. There was like no repercussions to it or anything. It was just crazy as fuck to see. Like, although it was pretty cool to see, it looked cool, but it was just wild. Like, damn, they should really just rearrange the whole world and nothing, and nobody says anything. So that was pretty funny. But Rachel Zegler, she was fine with what she was given. Lucy Liu as Calypso, it was sad to say, but she was the weakest villain, man, out of all of them. And she turned out to be the main villain in the movie. She was the one that had the most screen time and the one that kind of took over after Hespera was kind of not wanting to go down the destruction of the planet, you know? So, man, it was just like, her performance was flat in like tone and delivery. It almost felt like she wasn't used to working with CGI, so she really didn't know how to act in the moments where that had CGI. It was just awkward. Whenever she was riding that dragon, it just felt like she wasn't in the world, you know? I mean, all this sounds mean, but it just came off that way, and it's just like, it was just weak, man. Like, I didn't give a shit about any of these characters, which is horrible, man, because I love DC, man. I love Shazam, and I love that whole world. So it was a disappointment, man. Like, I didn't really care about any of them. There was no substance in this movie to make me care about them and their motives. It was just very bland, everything, like so generic. But yeah, man, the movie was definitely lacking in terms of characters, and I think that was mostly because of the script. I felt like the script wasn't great. Everything was just so basic in terms of story and like delivery and lines. So I think that was the biggest issue with the movie, the script. But yeah, let's head on into the next category, and that category is visuals/music. The overall look of the movie was kind of bad, man. I feel like the use of the volume was done poorly in this movie. If you don't know what the volume is, it's basically like the LED screens that we've seen used in The Mandalorian and The Batman to kind of digitally recreate backgrounds and have kind of the actors interact with something real and also get the appropriate lighting they need for a scene and things like that. But I felt like the blending of it wasn't good in this movie, man. It was just, and I think it was used too much, where I just felt like the whole world was fake, man. And not in a good fantasy way where I was like engulfed in the world, but like in a, I know this is fake and I know this is green screen type fake, you know? It's also like the CGI for the characters wasn't great. I'm not sure why they always do this, but they always replace the super suits with like CGI and keep the actors' heads floating, which is just distracting, and it didn't look good, man. Every time they flew or anything like that, it just looked awkward. And the full CGI shots though were pretty good. Whenever there was no like practical elements, just full CGI shots were great. The mythical creatures though that came at the end after Calypso planted the seed looked amazing. Like the designs for them looked so great, and the graphics looked amazing. You could probably tell they spent most of their budget on the final scenes because a lot of it looked pretty good. So that looked really cool. I definitely love that. And I kind of wish that we spent more time in the God world, man. It was just like, it was just basically, it felt like a sitcom locations. They just you go, you have a scene there, and you get out. Like, there's no explanation of this crazy world or anything like that. The cinematography was okay. It was hit or miss for me sometimes. Some scenes looked nice, and other scenes just felt like they had a sunset filter on them. It was just blasted with orange and yellow and saturation, which for me personally, I don't like it. It made the movie look kind of fake a little bit sometimes. So yeah, I mean, I'm no expert in terms of cinematography and all that stuff like that, but it just didn't look visually pleasing to me. Which is kind of like my biggest thing when I go into a movie. That's what kind of gets me first, is how the movie looks. So yeah, let's talk about the cameo that was spoiled for us in the TV spots and the promos of the movie. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was in this movie. She was in it twice. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, she was in a kind of a dream sequence, but it wasn't Gal Gadot. It was a body double, who was played by Taylor Cahill. And they actually had Wonder Woman cameo in this movie as well, which was terrible, man. It was actually Gal Gadot who played the scene, but she was definitely not there present with any of the other characters, and you can clearly see that. There was never a shot of them all together at once showing everybody's face and Gal's face. It was either with a blurry background, or if Gal Gadot was talking, it's the back of Shazam, and if Shazam's talking, it's the back of Wonder Woman. So she was clearly never there, and the director confirmed it. She couldn't make it out to Atlanta to shoot those scenes, so they had the body double there, and then they shot Gal's scene separately. But yeah, that cameo was horrible, man. It was so cheesy too, man. Like, so the whole premise of that little cameo intro was that Billy Batson had died in the final fight with Calypso, and they buried him in the realm of the gods. Power of the staff was extinguished, so they couldn't revive him, and they needed a power of the god to do it. And then of course, out of nowhere, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman shows up, and like, it's funny, the delivery was horrible, man. Because the wizard's talking, and he's explaining like how, oh, but there's no gods left, and he's pointing at Billy's grave, and then out of nowhere, you hear Wonder Woman's voice in the background. He's like, but there's one left, or something like that. So cheesy. And then like, you see her come in, and her music plays, and then like she walks forward, and like, the music is still playing, super cheesy, like her and everybody's just looking at in awe because it's Wonder Woman or whatever, who cares. And then she grabs the staff and, like, you know, breathes life into it and reignites it, and then ultimately reviving Billy and giving him his powers back as Shazam. And then they have like a conversation, Shazam and her, because, you know, Shazam throughout the movie is like head over heels for Wonder Woman. He's in love with her. So like, you know, that whole scene plays out, and then she just leaves and turns the corner, and that's it. And it's funny because, like, yo, these villains are coming from your realm, and they almost destroyed the whole fucking planet, and you were nowhere to be found. Like, where the hell were you? Like, and you just come at the end just to do one thing that, how do you even know about this? You just chilling, like, you know, you're just waiting behind a wall and shit to hear these conversations and then pop up and making grand entrance. Like, it was so dumb. That whole cameo was fucking stupid, man. And it didn't even need to be in the movie, and it took away from the weight of like Billy dying in the movie and shit like that, man. It was so whack. But yeah, man, that was one of the cameos. And then I guess we could talk about the post-credit scenes. There was 2 of them in this movie. The first one was kind of cool, but also like, oh man. So it starts off with Hardcore, played by Jennifer Holland, and Economos, played by Steve Agee. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Sorry if I messed it up. Who were in the Peacemaker show and the Suicide Squad. Walking down the forest, looking for Shazam because they want to recruit him into a team that Waller's bringing together, which is pretty cool if it wasn't Zachary Levi Shazam. Because at the end of the scene, you realize that Waller wants him to join the Justice Society, which is pretty cool. And that's probably what the Amanda Waller show is going to be about, because that was announced previously in the new DCU plans by James Gunn, that Waller's getting her own series, and it's going to take place after Peacemaker, leading into Peacemaker Season 2. So this might be what that show is about, her assembling the Justice Society, since she assembled the original one in Black Adam. That would have been cool if it wasn't Zachary Levi, man. Like, I love Shazam and I want to see him continue in this world and all that, but man, if Zachary Levi is playing him, I'm not excited at all, man. I kind of don't like how he portrays the character. He's just too goofy now, man. I don't know if, like, maybe with a different script and different direction and how to play the character, it could be good, but I don't know, man. I don't like, it sucks to say it, but like, hopefully they recast him and put somebody else in the role that's better. I don't know. It sounds mean, but like, I just don't want to see him play as Shazam anymore, man. It's just like the same way I don't like Ezra Miller as the Flash. I've never have, and it kind of sucks that Ezra's gonna be playing the Flash. You know, like the Flash, the movie looks incredible, but also like I'm not into Ezra's performance at all as the Flash. So it kind of sucks for me, you know, because I love that character, but I don't like how it's being portrayed. Same goes for Shazam. That's pretty much it for that post-credit scene. We'll see what happens in the future. The movie isn't doing that well in the box office, so that might not go anywhere, but that Waller show is definitely happening, so we'll see what happens, what kind of changes they make from there. The second post-credit scene is pretty much useless, it's dumb. It just picks up where the last post-credit scene from the first one finished, where Mark Strong's character, Dr. Savannah, is still in jail, still waiting for Mr. Mind to give his plans or whatever, and it's just kind of like a gag post-credit scene where he's like, yo, where you been, Mr. Mind? It's been fucking 2 years. I've been in this cell locked up. He has like a full beard now. And they haven't done anything. I guess they thought it was funny because they teased that in the first movie where it looked like that was gonna be the setup for the next movie, but that shit didn't go anywhere, obviously. And then they're just, I guess, taking jabs at it now. And then the scene ends with like, you know, Dr. Savannah asking him, all right, so tell me everything. And then Mr. Mind is like, I will, but first I have to do something. And then he like, you know, slowly wiggles his way out, out of the cell, and like, that's not gonna go anywhere either. It's obviously that this post-credits is a gag, and like they're not gonna do shit with that character. So yeah, pretty useless post-credit scene if you ask me. It wasn't even funny. It was just like, damn, it was kind of annoying. I waited throughout the whole credits, and like this was your post-credit. Just jabbing at an old post-credit scene. So it was whatever. I don't know, man. Overall, I felt like the movie was disappointing to me. Because I really enjoyed the first one, man. The first one had so much to love. It had charm. It was, you know, the writing was better. The characters, I felt, you know, more connected to them. As opposed to this movie, I didn't really care about any of the characters, man. The only ones I really cared about were the Wizard, Billy Batson when he had time, Mary Marvel, and that's about it, man. Everybody else had limited screen time. And the people that did have screen time, like the villains, didn't really do anything for me. There was nothing there story-wise to make me care about them. So it just kind of fell flat for me overall, the movie. Disappointing though. So yeah, final score on the couch meter. And I'm gonna need a little bit of help. I'm gonna have to say the words. Shazam! This movie is a 5 out of 10. But yeah, have you guys seen the movie yet? Tell me what you thought about it in the comments below. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that a lot. I'm gonna try to get better at these spoiler reviews. I'm gonna try to articulate myself better and get my point across better. This was just like kind of the top of my head stuff, but I'm gonna start trying to write these spoiler reviews and kind of make better points and things like that. So please bear with me. I appreciate you guys even tuning in to watch this. And if you like this content and you want to see more of it, maybe consider subscribing and becoming a member of the Couch Media Corps. That would mean so much to me. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. And until we meet again on the next video, peace.